my running mate's gonna pick a fight and know I'm getting the mic now. The cliche says you never forget from whence you come. And I woke up this morning as the governor did, and I looked at the paper, and I said, something missing here. One, I'm glad he's here because 2004, with the Wawa station getting gas, I happened to go oversee former state representative Herman Holloway Jr. He says to me, they're looking for somebody to run for the new county council seat. Why don't you see if you live in the district? I went home and I looked at the district, and because it had half the city and the Route 9 corridor, which, if you look at the school desegregation litigation, they were the plaintiffs in the litigation. I represented as chairman of the coalition to save our children. I called him and said, that district got my name wrote all over it. I'm in. So for those of you who like me, it was Herman's idea. For those of you who don't care for me, blame him. Second, I had to make a phone call this morning. Because when I ran for office in 2004, Keith Booker and Richard Mouse Smith, stand up now, president of NAACP. There were times when they worked harder on my campaign than I did. I'm going to make all this come together for you. And during the trials and tribulations of running for office, and I said, one of the opponents got $30,000. I don't see how we're going to win. Mouse told me last week, changed my mind. But more importantly for today's purpose, we're out here campaigning. Mouse looks at me and says, you know, I don't understand. How come there's no library out here? I said, because don't nobody give us, you know. So we went to the primary. Mouse says, they need a library out there, and you know they need a library out there. I said, Mouse, you know and I know they'll never put a library out there. He looked at me and said, you're not going to fight for it? I said, I didn't say I wasn't going to fight for it. I just said, it's not going to happen. Bottom line is, Mouse made me fight for it. The genesis of it was his insistence and his decisions. I called him this morning, I said, brother, please be here. So thank you. Thank you for your As I stand here this morning, y'all read the paper this morning, read the paper Friday, read the paper Tuesday. I'm standing here. Nobody loses 2 trials in 2 days, but I did. But my head is bloody, but I'm back. The battle about school, 60 years running, and as I stand on the eve of retirement, I got another contribution to make. See, the genesis of me being here, and part of the genesis of this library is, number one, as the paper said this morning, there's a rich history here. And if you look at the original Dunleavy and the decision makers, the orchestrators, the power players of the civil rights movement in this state, it was combined efforts of residents of the city of Wilmington and the residents of Dunleavy who were leaders, orchestrated out of the Presbyterian Community Church under the guidance, under the leadership of the late, great Maurice Moore. But I was the kind of child that you couldn't leave alone And nobody wanted to babysit. And so you say, well, how do you know this? How do you know that? See, in the 50s and the 60s when they were meeting, if Mom went to the meeting, I had to go, because very often Dad would say, take him with you or don't go to the meeting. And it was fun at first because the adults were in the room and they're arguing about where they're going to demonstrate, where they're going to sit in, and you get the cursing in church and you get the laughing. And when Mr. Redden raised his voice and said, ladies and gentlemen, I've listened attentively to the arguments brought forward tonight by all. And I think what he thought, that was it. It was over. And down the road they went. That past, that history should never be forgotten. The history of after-school desegregation should also never be forgotten. The 9-3 order, the plaintiffs were the Wilmington School District, the former Delaware School District. And what happened with the former Delaware School District is a shameful past that should never be forgotten. Because when they said the county residents have to spend 3 years in the former black district, before we desegregated, they came through and they closed all the schools in the former Delaware School District north of Memorial Drive. We had to fight like just to keep this one open as a community center. And in my opinion, when you began the process, when you took away the school, you began the process to destroy the infrastructure. No accident. 1974, a farm over there in Minkledale got rezoned by the county. Now it's a dump. They dumped on the east side, they dumped on the west side. To the point where we had the highest cancer rate, the highest crime rate, and failing schools. Well, on the one hand, I've learned, it's kind of ingratiating to me that a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Tomorrow is the actual birthday of Dr. King, and I'm so happy we're here on the eve of his birthday. I say today, an opportunity for revitalization in the Root Corridor area today, if we do it right. It's an opportunity for revitalization everywhere, but especially in Newcastle County, especially in the state of Delaware. So, my mother, God rest her, she was very active in the community. And on the one hand, she taught me, as a matter of fact, when she came off the battlefield, she was my chief confidant. I walked in the house and she said, when you see a good fight, get in it. On the other hand, she would say, accentuate the positive. I'm not going to dwell upon the negative history. What I want to do is accentuate the positive and talk about the history that we're making today. The history that we're about to make. And the next person who comes to the mic is a major, major part of that history. And I just finished 40 years in the education arena, 30-some years, major battles and confrontations with former superintendents of the Colonial School District. And nobody would have told me that I'd be still in the arena when history was made when we got an African-American superintendent in the Colonial School District. 2008, I'm in the boardroom and I said to the hearing officer said to me, you're not a lawyer. I said, you ain't no judge. And I'm just making a record here, we're going to Dover. 30-some years that the district's been in operation. It's January. And I have not had a phone call about it, and I have not made a phone call to the Colonial School District. Change in leadership. And the history that's being made is already taking its toll. As I stand here on the eve of retirement now, as you think about retiring and what you're going to do next, think about those who put you there and what you're going to leave. And I'm so happy to look out and see what I think is the future. And I look at Sheila Burkell and the youth and the leadership here in this community center. I know we've got a positive leader and a good future coming. When I look at my former deputy director, who is now her deputy director, yeah, she's still old. She was part of the leadership. When I look up here and I see this hand, and I want to say to her, I want to say to the county executive, all I wanted was a library. That's all the vision I have. But y'all made it into something so special, something so different, above and beyond. I can't express how truly, truly grateful I am and how I think that the community will benefit from it going forward. And with that, I would like to introduce the first African-American superintendent of the Columbus School District, Dr. Dusty Blake.
Thank you, Councilman Street, for those kind words. I really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. When I was first introduced to the plan of the creation of the Innovation District along the Route 9 corridor, I immediately thought of the positive impact it could have on the community and on our school district. So let me tell you a little bit about our district. Our district is 14 schools, and 12 of those 14 schools, every child gets free breakfast and free lunch. We have 5 food pantries and countless gardens that are grown by the schools and the kids, and the vegetables are then turned over back to the families. So we know we have some challenges. And so as I thought about the impact of the Innovation Center and District, I thought of 2 words, and those 2 words were access and opportunity. Because we know that in the middle of difficult times, there's always opportunity. And we see many of our students lack the basic technology needs outside of the smartphone. They all have a smartphone. But if you survey how many have computers at home, the numbers go really down fast. We know that they lack a place to study and learn and grow outside of the school system and outside of the school day. They lack basic access to public health and related services in the community. And we believe that the Innovation Center and the whole district, in conjunction with what we already do in the school system, will help close some of those gaps. And together, we'll be able to provide wraparound services, mentoring programs, job skill programs, and other services that will support our community's needs. See, in Colonial, we believe that when there's a strong community, there's a strong school system. But that goes both ways, because when there's a strong school system, it also helps support a strong community. And so we believe that we must attack our problems at the root. We know that in order to grow a tree and let that tree reach its highest potential, we've got to feed the root. And by addressing the root, we know the tree will grow, producing beautiful flowers that bloom into successful and productive seeds that multiply and inspire additional growth. We know that for our students, ability is nothing without opportunity. We understand that the creation of this Innovative Center and Innovation District in this community will provide opportunity for revitalization that will allow the return of greatness to this community. And President Barack Obama once said, "People don't expect government to solve all their problems, but they sense deep in their bones that with just a slight change in priorities, we can make sure that every child in America has a decent shot at life, and that the doors of opportunity remain open to all." They know that we can do better. We know we can do better. And this is one step in that direction. So I'd like to take time to personally thank the officials from Newcastle County and the state of Delaware for selecting this location to make a statement, and that statement is to all of Delaware, that this community is important and it's worth investing in, and that this completed Innovation Center will be a model for the nation. And I look forward to being a part of it, this great project.
Blakey. And now we'll have closing remarks from the county's Chief Administrative Officer, David Grimaldi.
Thank you, Sophia. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I think that this is some of the most meaningful work that we're going to do together. The need exists. This is an area that has suffered the highest foreclosure rates, the highest dropout rates, the highest under and unemployment rates in Newcastle County, and there's a saying, you're only as strong as your weakest link. I want to thank our county executive, and I think it's fitting that the county executive who years ago built the Police Athletic League and tore down the De Loire Motel as the county executive put forth this vision to bring back and revitalize the Route 9 area. It's not just a library, it's not just an innovation center, it's a community revitalization, and he is going to bring this community back. And I appreciate the support of our governor and the state. All layers of government are coming together to make this happen. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you, David. That concludes our program. We have an innovation cake here if anybody wants to try that out. And we have information on all the initiatives that we have going on underway to revitalize the corridor. So take some time to get that information. Thank you.